Hi, welcome to the Daiku podcast and Daiku Game Pitch. And I am Gary Snow. Today, I welcome JP Couvert, the creative mind behind games like Goons and Ghosts, Starborg, Teenage Mutant Tunnel Goons, and tomorrow, JP will be kickstarting a new system-neutral adventure called Dragon Town and the Darkness Below, which I can't wait to learn more about. JP, welcome.
Hey, Gary, thanks for having me, man.
Well, I've been a big fan of your channel for like a long time. I love the creativity that comes behind it, and I want to learn all about your creative process, the game that you're producing, and all that. But first, as always, let's talk a little bit about how you got started in this crazy little hobby.
Yeah, I feel like most similar to a lot of people. So I guess going to like bookstores as a kid, stumbling upon Dragonlance books, kind of was the hey, here's D&D thing, and then picking up, I think the second edition ish, somewhere in there, Monster Manual. Not having any idea what the rules were, any of that stuff, and then like trying to play third edition at some point, and just being a kid, not having any idea, and then I think when fifth edition D&D came out, that's when I kind of got into actually playing. And then, of course, that quickly led into other games, indie stuff from there. So,
Well, and I look back at your YouTube channel, and I mean, like, obviously, it's probably increased in the last 5-6 years. But your YouTube channel goes back, I look, 10 years. So, and it was
oh my
at
gosh,
that point
yeah.
still kind of more like illustration based. When did you make that
Mhm.
switch into like, hey, I'm gonna like kind of produce content, like not
Yeah.
content necessarily, but like role playing game?
Mhm. Yeah. So I guess almost 10 years ago now. Wow. I started the channel when I became just a freelancer. Like freelance illustrator, designer. And so I was kind of doing the channel as like just whatever I felt like making videos on, whatever was going on in my life. And a lot of skateboarding stuff, because I work with friends that own a skateboarding company, and they all make videos. So that's kind of where I learned how to make videos. And then I got to a point where I was like, I need a hobby outside. I was freelance illustrating and stuff. I was like, I need a hobby outside of all of this. So that's when I started running D&D. And then, I've spent a lot of time making stuff for my own game. And then, of course, that turns into videos and figuring out how to draw maps and everything. And that, it just soon I started making videos about the things I was making for my own game. And that eventually kind of grew and grew until it was all consuming. And now my hobby is turned into every waking moment.
And so if we go back to like what was actually the first, you said maps and that kind of thing, and so when did Flick Silverpen kind of rear his head, so to speak, as far as your guest host of your world?
Yeah. So Flick, like just the name Flick has been like my all the way back to the trying to play third edition. Flick was my halfling rogue character. So like my first character that I played. And so I think when I did a zine quest for Dragontown, just what has become the first two chapters in the book, was initially a zine, kind of like a standalone intro adventure. and I wanted it to be like, it's kind of half and half. Like practically it's written half and half, but I wanted it to kind of have the flavor of like written by somebody in world.
Yeah.
And so I just used Flick. I like the idea of having a character who's like walking around seeing all this stuff, and so a little halfling guy walking around.
It adds to the flavor, because I really
Yeah,
love the in-world game experience where, like, in theory you could meet Flick. It just helps to have that
sure. Yeah,
guide. It's just like, it's like the never-ending story. You're kind of
yeah,
in the
yep.
book kind of feel to it, and that kind of thing. And then, like, maybe just walk us through like the decision of, okay, you've got the first two chapters of Dragon Town, and when did you go, oh, you know what? I've got an idea to like make it into a full comprehensive setting.
Yeah, so I did the Zine Quest Kickstarter and had a lot of fun. Um, I almost did it on a whim. I mean that sounds like I just one day put up the Zine Quest. It wasn't quite like that, but um, it
But
took it.
sometimes those projects are the best, the ones that you just kind of go, I've had it in the back of my mind,
Yeah, yeah,
ruminating for quite a while, and then you're just like, now's the time.
yeah. So I mean, it really was like, oh, I want to make this intro adventure um, where it's in at the time everything was 5e for me. Like that's what I was running. I had played a couple other things, but and I was starting to like butt up against that, and I really wanted something where it was like, hey, you don't have to like fight every encounter doesn't need to be a fight. And so that was kind of the impetus of writing the adventure. Um, but then I might have lost track of your original question.
Oh, just
Um,
like where when you decided to like jump from like that first adventure into like
oh
a
yeah,
full-size book, and like now, like, I mean, the box set too, I mean, a quite
yeah,
comprehensive project.
yeah. Okay, so I did the Zine Quest, had a lot of fun doing it, and sort of like as I was writing this adventure, it was one of those things where it's like I'm having all these ideas, I'm just like writing notes of things I want to put in there. And, at some point it's like, um, I think the original zine was 40 pages, and it's like, maybe I could have gone 44. And then, but once you start going up past that, it like, gets to be like too much to staple through and stuff. So I was like, I got to put some of these ideas to the side. I got to pick and choose what I want to actually use. So just by the time I had finished it, the had all these ideas, and it was literally like a list of. I think at the beginning I had like 10 or 12 other locations with like little sub ideas of things that could like come next. And then it kind of just, yeah, it was like by the time I was done with it, it just felt like, oh, I can make smaller zines so they're a little bit more manageable and just kind of keep it going. Like I already figured out this format with Flick, writing it, and then also like the design, the production format, how to lay stuff out and get the illustrations in there and everything. So it just kind of made sense to keep going. Creatively, it was really fulfilling. And yeah, and then I was like, all right, I'm just going to start a Patreon, I guess, and try and do one of these each month. um,
Well, like I said, it looks fantastic. I love the, I guess I don't want to discount it, because I love the aesthetic, the childlike kind of whimsy and fun to it. And that's my jam. I love that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
love to see it. I love just the little world that you've created for it. And let's pop it right on the screen, just so people can see it. And I've got a preview copy here, so thank you very much for that. I'm not holding it right, but
yeah.
looks fantastic. And I know this is going to have a cloth.
Yeah, the production of it's a
binding,
little different. Yeah.
but it, you know, looks fantastic. Smith sewn, and then you've got all sorts of trinkets, and we'll talk about all those like add-ons for the box set and that kind of thing at the end of it. But looks fantastic. And one of the things that I like, and I'm just going to flip through it like really quickly, and hey, if there's anything that jumps out to you that you want to talk about, but there's a few things that I really like, and I'll maybe pause on those slides. Well, first of all, the map of the fun, like I said, it's that whimsy that I just like, that you've become very well known for. You know, just that JP style and handcrafted. And I also maybe should ask at this point, what do you use for your creative software and illustration software? Because I know I have a lot of game designers that watch my channel, and I'm sure they're curious.
Yeah, I am stuck in Adobe land. So I use Photoshop to draw, and I have a Cintiq that I you know, it's like a monitor that you can draw right on. You know, and then InDesign to lay everything out. I'm using Premiere for videos, and I definitely don't recommend that to anybody, especially if you're starting at this point. But that's what I use, and you know, I'm stuck in it because I've been using it for 20 years, and I use multiple different the multiple different programs like every day for everything. So I feel stuck in it.
I get stuck in the same thing because like to actually change at this point disrupts your workflow, which is difficult. And
if it was just one program, I would absolutely make the time to switch, but having to learn multiple different, I feel like I don't have enough time.
And once you start investing in your brushes and all that kind of stuff to like
right.
switch, it's all annoying. But anyways, fabulous little Dragontown map, and it looks like a lot of fun. The other thing that I absolutely love is the comic strips of Flick in here, and like the real world guide, and that's another fun. Did you ever aspire to be a comic book artist at one point?
Yeah. So I went to school to study comics, and yeah, that was kind of before all of this started. That was definitely like the main thing. So I co-ran a comics publisher and record label for 15 years, called 1% Press, and have made dozens of mini comics, and one graphic novel that was kind of like a teaching how to make comics comic. So yeah, that was one thing that was like kind of important for me, is to like put this little introduction. You know, it's just 6 pages, but just get a little bit of my old life into the pages of this thing. So.
Did you ever think when you were going back to school so many years ago that you'd make a role-playing game featuring all your illustrations and comics?
No, like in school was kind of like that. Well, okay, here's an interesting. So yeah, when I was in college, that was kind of the point where I wasn't paying attention to any role-playing game stuff. But then in grad school, like kind of right at the end of grad school, one of my professors, who actually is also he's an amazing cartoonist, like masterful cartoonist, but is also a game designer. His name's Jason Lutz. He recently is like part of the team that did Stone Top, that is coming out soonish, I think. And then I'm blanking on the one that the Kickstarter that he just did, the name of it, but it's Freebooters in the Frontier is another one that he's done. Really cool. But he was my professor at grad school, And I think it was when Gary Gygax passed away, he wanted to do something. And so he ran one of the giant modules. I forget which, I think there's like 2 or 3 of them. I forget which. I'm so bad at remembering names,
No,
clearly.
me too. Me too. I'm sorry.
Sorry if you can hear the train outside.
That's okay. I had some people doing yard work across the way with the leaf blower, so that kind of stuff happens on live.
Yeah. So, but he ran one of those modules, and it was like there was like 10 of us or something. So it was kind of like unwieldy or whatever. But that was like right at the end of grad school, and kind of like put the bug back in for trying to figure out this role playing game stuff.
Well, it's super cool, and I mean, it's just always interesting to like when people reflect upon their history and past, and they go, "Did I ever think I was going to make a game?" And then when they actually make a game, they go, "You know what? Everything was leading to this the whole time," and it's just kind of funny the way life works out sometimes.
Yeah, I think making games is, or in this case, writing adventures is, and doing it in this way is like very similar to making comics, where you have to consider the writing and the illustration. And one thing that always like drives me crazy when I see it, I guess it's like one of the little nitpick things I have is, when it happens like with the Wizards of the Coast books all the time. And I'm anyway, but it's like when there's like a block of text and it like says all this stuff, and then there's a picture of the thing, and the picture is just like, it's like somebody wrote the block of text for somebody to draw the picture. So it's like saying the same thing. And that's like kind of with comics, it's like a big, like the magic of comics is that you can write one thing and then have a picture of something else. And it's when they work together that it like makes it really cool. And like, you can say so much with like just a little bit of words in a picture. And you can make like, I won't nerd out too hard, but
no, I like that's what we're here for. But it's like kind of show, don't tell. You don't need to
so like
keep saying the same thing over and over.
Right. It's like, so, when I'm writing an adventure or whatever, it's like, oh, okay, I know I'm going to have an illustration. The most basic like example is I know I'm going to have an illustration of whatever this NPC is, right? So I don't need to describe what they're wearing or what they look like. I can just draw the picture, and I can save all that space in the writing. And I can just sit, I end up saying like what they sound like a lot. I always find that helpful. And then, I don't know. I feel like I'm always writing about how things sound and how things smell, not how they look.
And it must be very freeing because I know you have a lot of tool sets, right? You can do the layout, you can do the illustration and the writing, and which is like, it frees you up for the ability to like design everything, and that there's not like, oh, I need to leave a space for like maybe an illustrator to like put in, and you have that, and it makes a very comprehensive product or game or adventure because you're able to kind of envision it exactly how you want it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes the process easier, for sure. And I don't know, I don't want to say I can always tell, but I really do love when, I guess you can kind of tell when people, write and draw it and do every part of it. There's something really special about that, I think.
Yeah, well, there's very few people that can pull it off, so you're one of the handful that can kind of do it. And I'm thinking like Luca Reyes, Nate Treme, a handful of other folks. And I know you've used the Tunnel Goons from Nate as a basis for some of your games, and very similar, I guess, maybe approaches and styles to the game too. And like that's kind of my jam too, which is like kind of a nice youthful, kind of fun, playful design.
Yeah, I think you can, you don't have to be a professional illustrator or writer. to make a cool game all by yourself, or cool adventure all by yourself.
The up on the screen we have the
Yeah.
table of contents with the cutaway map, and I'm a huge fan of cutaway maps. Like I think I mentioned to you in one of our exchanges
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
like for me when I was first starting out in role playing games, like I didn't see dungeons top down. I always saw them as like Pitfall, where it was kind
Yeah.
of like, or like a side
Hmm.
like Mario Brothers type of thing,
Yeah. Yep.
a side adventure thing. And so I love this, especially when you pair it with the table of contents so that people can kind of see where things are going. So maybe did you have that in mind the whole time when you were doing the table of contents, or did it kind of come after?
I think it came after, once I realized like the majority of this adventure is going to be like leading down underground. That's when the cutaway map came in. So it was probably around chapter 6 or chapter 7 that I kind of locked into that idea. Because yeah, same, it's the video game thing, right? Like, seeing the Castlevania map. I'm kind of in a Castlevania
Yeah.
mode at the moment, or something like that. It's the
Well, it's really fun,
yeah,
and then it kind of like positions you that you go, okay, I know exactly where I need to kind of get to in all the different chapters with a little
yeah,
description. So I thought really clever design, and maybe this would be a good time to talk about your choice to make it kind of system neutral. Probably opens it up to like a lot of different people using it in a lot of different ways. But as far as the decision you made to do that versus like pinholing it on something.
yeah. Um, I don't want to be like too flippant about it, but I hate writing stat blocks and I don't know. It's I shouldn't say I hate it. But it's not interesting to me, so I'm not good at it. And whenever I don't know if it's just like a artist number thing or something, but whenever I'm like running a game and I'm like, all right, I got to look up they're about to fight this monster and I got to like figure out how many hit points and what its armor class is and stuff. And I just, I I don't care.
Well, I think that's the benefit. I like, the artist mind of like, I don't like numbers, reduce the numbers
Yeah.
to like more of a creative element. Um,
Yeah.
and that just adds more flavor into the game as well, instead of just a number.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, so I love rolling dice. And I won't get off track on that, but I want that to still be a part of it. But basically it's like, when I think of like what kind of stat block I want to look at. So there's the little ogre example right there. That's kind of like what I want to look at, where it's like, okay, the ogre has a lot of health and it does a lot of damage and its speed is low, so it like moves really slow. And that's kind of, and then like some abilities, so I know like what the ogre is doing once combat breaks out. And that's kind of like all I need. And then so that like on a personal level, that's what I'm looking for. And then I think, it's like when I make this stuff, I want people to be able to use it. And so I'm hoping that this is, I think some people aren't going to like this approach for sure. But I'm hoping that this is enough information, that if you're playing 5e, if you're playing Shadow Dark or DCC, well, like whatever, you can look at this and it makes sense enough where you can just translate it easily into something that your players are up against at their level in that moment, all that stuff. So
Yeah, well, and it opens it up to being played with a lot of the different systems that are out there currently,
yeah,
so you
what
can take it and just run with it and just make it your own. And so chapter 1, Dragontown, was it always called Dragontown? Was that your original name for it, or have you ever kind of had other?
Yeah, I mean, naming stuff is always the hardest part, and kind of forget where. I mean, so like, I talk about it all the time, but like Dragon Quest, Dragon Warrior was kind of a big deal for me, and I joke with my friends that they kind of just know, like, if there's a dragon in a thing, I'm gonna like it, like I'll um like I love the the Hobbit movies.
Yeah,
Just because there's smog and it's so cool, like there's a
yeah,
lot wrong with.
dragons
Yeah,
are
it's
cool.
awesome.
You
This is
can't
an
go
awesome
wrong.
dragon. And so, like, I don't know, I just love dragons.
Yeah,
And so since this was like the first thing, and I wanted there to be a dragon, and then it just kind of like it's just, I don't know, it's like simple, and the idea behind the town is there's this like mayor who um I wanted to make like a really kind of idyllic, like Shire-ish
mhm.
town as my first thing. But then I knew that there needed to be like some danger happening, and that's like kind of where the players come in, right? As like help um, with this danger. I knew I wanted there to be a dragon, but if there's a dragon around, like, why is there danger? And then that kind of led to like, oh, the dragon is like the mayor of this town. And then I just started thinking about like what would people call this crazy like farm village place. It's like, oh yeah, that's the place with the dragon.
Yeah,
It's the Dragon Town. So
cool. And then
yeah.
surrounding the town, you've got like lots of little, I guess, adventure hook areas that people can kind of visit, and within each location, there's kind of like stuff to explore and buttons to push, levers to pull,
Yeah.
and create an adventure based upon all those results that come from it. The as far as the hooks and that kind of thing, did you have is there a meta plot and meta narrative that is kind of underlying everything for the adventure, or is it kind of just each location has kind of its unique flavor?
Yeah. So like I was saying, I had all these ideas of just like weird stuff that I wanted to happen. And the sort of meta plot. Ooh, how much do I want to spoil here? Or can I explain it without spoiling? So basically, this town and the surrounding areas are like these magical apple orchards. So there's all these farmers around that are like growing these magical apples, and that's why the dragon came to the town, because it loves to eat these magical apples. And then I was sort of thinking of like, what would I want once this became a bigger, kind of like campaign length type adventure. It's like, what do I want the sort of heroic world ending thing to be? And you mentioned never ending story. And so I just loved the idea of like, okay, there's all this like magic stuff happening in this area. So like, what if it's this thing that like wants to eat all of the magic and kind of like take everything that's cool away. And so that became kind of like the the villain. So that's the darkness below is the thing that is trying to kind of like break free and eat all the magic.
Cool. Well, that sounds fun. And I also love the isometric maps that you've done. How did you envision them as far as like layout versus like putting it in the design? I'm curious about that. Like, do you always kind of leave a space and kind of figure it out, or do you kind of do the map and go, okay, I need to chunk out a piece here to work with?
Yeah. That's a good question. So I guess it starts with like the maps always start with like what is best, like what best serves like the usefulness of it. So like, like we kind of said, the side view map really shows the like leading underground kind of thing, and an isometric map is good for there's a little bit of there's like the second floor. I don't know how like actually successful this map is, because the
Oh, that
second
looks fun.
floor is kind of I hope it's not too confusing. But it's sort of like I try and think of like what best serves, like if I'm a GM trying to run this, what's the like most helpful thing to look at. And so yeah, it kind of starts with that, and then once I have that idea, then it's like, all right, how do I fit this into a page of the zine, or two pages in this case, and kind of like show everything. And so that, then there's all the considerations of like the scale of the thing, and the, I guess having the limitation of a digest size zine is nice to have that up front. So I kind of know what has to fit where, and, the map can't take up 4 pages, or maybe it could, maybe there's a way to do that, but,
Did you know that it was going to be digest? I mean, is that just simply like all your other stuff is kind of the digest size? And did you go, obviously I'll just stick with that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think back when Zine Quest, I forget I think it was the 3rd Zine Quest.
It used to be the requirement. It had to be
Yeah, it was like one of the
size,
requirements, which I think is kind of like, looking back on that, like that's kind of dumb. But I think it was like a requirement, so I just did it. Because as I was making mini comics all those years, I like really fought against the digest size, because I mean it's here in the US where we have our like weird paper sizes and stuff. I guess does Canada use?
We're basically the same as the US, so we're
Okay,
like kind of digest size, and that we use inches
letter
rather
and,
than
yeah.
When I get over into Europe and I see I don't even know what the hell they call them, the A's,
Yeah,
and
A's
I'm like,
and
okay.
B's and yeah. They're like just different enough to like really break your brain. But I mean it's kind of like the easiest, it's just a letter size piece of paper folded in half. So it is the easiest, or I shouldn't say easiest, but like most kind of universal or something.
For a scrappy DIY game designer, it's like perfect that you can just fold it, staple it on your way. And I think that's the beauty of all indie games, and that's why I love talking indie games, is like it's that kind of scrappiness of like do it yourself. And I think there's an audience out there, obviously, I think, for people that just love that kind of like, hey, just make it yourself. And so as we kind of keep flipping through here, you've got like all sorts of different monsters. Did you ever at one point, like I'm looking at some of the names and all that kind of stuff, I find naming things, eventually you're like just tired. You're like, oh, just call it like just call it the Dark Woods, because eventually you're like, it's a lot of stuff to name.
Yeah. Oh man, naming things. I should probably like write down like a formula or something to do it. I mean, I think like we're looking at Xanthorial. I think that's probably like some Latin word. It's like half using Latin, half like switching around consonants and vowels. So like, um, it's
Well, it's in
instead
the
of,
grand tradition of like you'd look back at all the old D&D
yeah,
modules from basic onward, and let's throw an X in there or a Z
yep,
in there, or like who knows, what's another
yeah,
Y? Let's
exactly,
put two Y's together.
yeah, yeah.
Why
So I
not?
mean, it's the it's like. Instead of naming an NPC Gary, you'd name him Barry. I mean, that doesn't really work because it's, you try to like make it fantasy kind of
There
sounding,
should
but
be more NPCs named Gary. I'm going to
yeah.
advocate for that right now. Please, if you're making a
Uh-huh.
game and you need an NPC name, I think Gary's a spectacular
I
choice.
think so. Yeah.
So we got the Windsong Woods, and forests are always kind of interesting and neat to kind of play with, and Mirkwood and the
Mhm.
Hobbit and that kind of thing. Did you have a favorite area that you worked on of as far as the chapters? Like we got Shadespeare Mountains for chapter 4. Did you have like a favorite that you went, you know what, that like if I could do more of, I would do it because it just was so much fun?
I don't know if I have a favorite. I mean, the kind of conceit, I guess, or I don't know, part of the process for these chapters was to kind of link them together, but also have them be able to pull them out as a one shot. If you wanted, to just stick the plum wax kobolds layer in your game, you can take it out and put it in there. And so part of the like design process was to kind of like make each location a unique design challenge. So like for this one, it's like, okay, how do I make like a random dungeon? And so, I mean, this one is, there's a map that you can use. Yeah. Like there's that map that you can just use it if that's, going back to like just trying to make it easy for people to use. But if you wanted to just not have the map and run this as like as a random dungeon, the idea is like there's all these kobolds running around setting traps everywhere, and it's like this confusing maze of a cavern layer. So like just run it randomly, and there's a little like procedure for for how you go through the rooms or whatever. But and yeah, so like each chapter is just how do I do a point crawl or a hex crawl, or the challenge of making a real linear dungeon interesting. So yeah, I don't know, picking a favorite, I'm not totally sure. But yeah, because each one is different.
And I do like the way, especially in the Cobalt section and the underground sections, that you played with the dark and the light
Yeah.
with the cavernous. And so I appreciate that as far as like showing the underground and like the stalactites and stalagmites and all that kind of stuff. So just kind of creates that like underground vibe to it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
try to make so like as the chapters go and you get further and further underground, it like gets darker and darker. It's not, I mean, it's like that's kind of just back of mind sort of thing. It's not like practically that, but that was kind of a consideration.
yeah, and I love this shot here with the rope bridge going between the two. And I can't help but think about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom when they're on
Yeah.
that rope bridge. There's bound to be some excitement that happens on that
Yeah.
rope bridge.
Literal cliffhanger ending to this chapter.
And As like you now reflect upon it, we're on Emperor of the Worms, and I love this with the worm kind of. What is that? Is that the guts of the worm that you're inside?
Yeah. So my kind of elevator pitch for this one is you get eaten by a giant worm, and there's one way in and one way out. So yeah, you gotta go all the way through.
And those that are inside it already have created their own like little world.
Yeah, so then there's just a bunch of bug people living in there for some reason, but they seem to enjoy it. Yeah.
Cool. And how long did it actually, but from start to finish, how long did it take you to kind of like do all the art, all the layout? Did you have any kind of missteps along the way that you like kind of course corrected halfway through and went, oh, you know what? No, I had like a light bulb moment and I'm going to change things up a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was releasing kind of each chapter was its own zine that I was releasing on Patreon every month. And so, it's like one a month was kind of the timeline. And then at the end of it, when I decided to collect it into a book, well, actually, I guess as I was making them, so around actually this zine is when I started. So like right here, I was like, okay, this darkness below stuff is going on. I need to start like making it like I haven't shown it enough. Like it's not a big enough threat. And so I started like, all right, now we get to actually the players will actually like start seeing some of the um, the threat and the destruction that the darkness below can create. And so that was kind of a course correction. And then again, even later when I decided to collect everything, the going back and connecting all of the chapters and like kind of reworking things here and there to sort of make it a clearer through line was part of the like revision process.
Well, looks like a lot of fun. We had one comment come up here, and so sorry if I'm not familiar with it, but the guide to the Trollbog Sage Lakes, when is that coming?
Oh,
is that-
yeah. So, okay, this that's funny that
we're gonna put you on the spot here. That you gotta commit to further stuff.
It's funny that those that's what's asked for. Actually, I mean, pretty soon. So next month, while the campaign is kind of going on, I'll be doing Flick Silverpin's Guide to the Ravenwood, which is like the area north of where all of this takes place. And then in the comic at the beginning and kind of like sprinkled throughout, I mentioned the Troll Bog and the Sage Lakes. So the Troll Bog is to the east and the Sage Lakes are to the west of the area. I actually don't know what's further. Oh, I know it's immediately south. There's a little town that's immediately south. But then further south, I don't know yet.
Do you find as like you have a very successful Patreon, do you find the stress of that? Like, I'll just tell you the background of my question is that at one point I like thought, like many other people, oh, I'll just start a Patreon, pay for like a little bit of that. And for me, the stress of like producing on a monthly basis and like it to me, I was like, you know what? I'd rather just do it when I want to do it and that kind of thing. But do you find that? Or does it motivate you, perhaps?
Both. Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, it's both for sure. I mean, I think I'm extremely lucky in that this is my job now to make these things every month, and I think I'm even luckier that I get to kind of decide what interests me in that moment. So like, You know, I have a ton of ideas written down, but then I don't necessarily, I know what I'm going to do next month, but then the month after it probably will be maybe not Trollbog, Sage Lakes, but maybe. And so I think I'm so lucky that I can like kind of decide. It's not really on a whim, but like just in the moment what I'm interested in making, and then there's people there that are interested. Yeah, so that helps a lot, that it's not like you know, if I want to do a flick silver pin guide, I can do that, or I can make Star Wars inspired Morkborg hack or whatever, you know, like I can kind of just whatever I'm interested in, like really helps with that pressure part of
Yeah.
it.
Well, you know, to make games for a living has got to be like, you know, there's like probably many people that would be jealous of the situation, and you
Yeah.
have obviously a very popular YouTube channel as well. And I guess now maybe that would be a good time to reflect upon. I already asked you about, did you ever think you'd be doing this, but did you ever think you would achieve, you know, I know you probably don't want to phrase it as success, but obviously you've got like a ton of subscribers on your YouTube channel. You've got like a lot of Patreon followers. I'm sure this is going to be a really successful Kickstarter. Like over that, since you started the YouTube channel and got to this point, like it's a pretty incredible journey that you've been on.
Yeah. I mean, it's not lost on me. I, I, I guess reflecting on it, I mean, maybe that's where some of the pressure comes in, is like, I got to keep making cool stuff, you know? But it's also like, that's the fun thing that I get to, I don't know. It's crazy to me. It's crazy that there's enough people interested in these weird, uh, you know, little games and adventures that that I can do it as a full-time thing. Yeah, it's crazy.
Cool. Well, okay, now tell us about the Kickstarter. Like it's a
Yeah.
box set,
Yeah.
and so you're still working on the final design of the box set, I think, as far as the
Hmm.
look and the test of it and all that kind of stuff. But what's going to go inside it?
Yeah. So the Kickstarter, there's well, I guess there's a digital tier. So if you just want all the stuff digitally, there's that. There's the book, and then the kind of, so I guess like thinking about the design of it, like, you know, like a lot of people do um like special edition covers for the book, or you know, like the um my approach to this Kickstarter is like, I want to make a really cool book. So like I'm going to make the design of the book that is the thing that I want. And so there's no like special edition thing, because like this is the special edition, you know?
Yeah.
And then I was kind of thinking like how, you know, my idea of like a special edition is like you would get everything to play the adventure in person, and so that's kind of my thought behind the box set. Now, what I'm sort of bracing myself for is that the way I think of how, or the way I play games at the table is probably a little bit different than how other people play, and so I'm, you know, and I think that's maybe reflected in the book too. So like the maps, you know, aren't really like battle maps. Um, there's no miniature, like it's kind of crazy because I like make videos like, hey, this is how you make miniatures and stuff, and tokens, and I don't really play like that in person, so there's like not really, there's no miniatures in the box. That being said, I try and cram all as much cool stuff into the box make it fun to play at the table as I can. So, you know, all of the maps that you saw as we were flipping through, there's like player facing 11 by 17 versions that you can throw down on the table just as a reference. Because you know some of these like dungeons and stuff or areas, I guess, can get kind of complicated. So like having a visual to you know help is
Yeah, it just
a good
helps to
thing.
anchor the
Yeah, yeah,
discussion so that you know that you're talking about the same thing, and
yeah,
like at least on the same page. But I'm kind of like you. I love theater of the mind,
yeah.
and it actually sort of reminds me of a little story. My daughter was talking, like she's got a very active imagination, and she was saying that, like, you know, when you read the book, your imagination
Hmm.
actually does a better job than often somebody else's like map or like even a movie. And that's why people get so disappointed when they have a favorite book and then they watch the movie, because perhaps their imagination was actually better than the movie could have ever pulled off. And it's the same thing with theater of the mind.
Yeah, every time. I mean, maybe like Jurassic Park is the one exception I can think of. But like, yeah, I mean, that's yeah. I kind of, right. So,
And now it just makes me think I see a future Dino Goons
yeah.
in
Oh,
your future.
I mean, that's a
Okay, write it
great,
down. Write it down. I
yeah,
want to
yeah.
see it.
Okay. I'm actually gonna write that down. uh, that's really good.
There we go.
Yep. Yeah. So like I think there's a balance between making sure everyone at the table is on the same page, you know, while also letting everybody imagine the thing in their head and have it be what they want. And that, I mean, I think that is kind of the magic of these games, right? Is that we're like sharing this thing. I could like,
Well, it's not the same for everybody, but it's a
yeah,
collective imagination, but everybody's
yeah,
seeing their own version of it. It's like, I
yeah,
mean, that's the beauty of role-playing games,
yeah,
obviously,
yeah,
is that theater of the mind. And the more tokens you add into it and the more kind of like movement and like, I can move 8 squares or whatever, it
yeah.
starts to take away from that imagination.
100% agree. Yeah.
And so tomorrow is the Kickstarter. You must be excited, but it's also a nerve-wracking thing when you hit go on these
Yeah.
Kickstarters, because you go, "What did I forget?" And how are you feeling the day before?
Um, I, I feel good. I mean, you know, it's, I mean, it's a different scale, I think. But it's similar to like the way I feel like publishing the zines every month, where it's like, you know, like I hope people like this. It kind of, you know, you kind of get to the deadline and you're like, you can either think about all the things that you left out and like didn't make it, or you can think about um all the stuff that did make it. So I'm kind of like in between those two things. Like I'm really proud of everything that's gone into this, the book and the box set. And I also wish I could put more into it, but I'm just one I'm just one guy doing all this.
Well, it's impressive, and I should note this for everybody that's like watching this at home. This is like 99% done,
Yeah,
99% laid out. We flipped through that, which is rare, and in the world of like, you know, kickstarting and that kind of stuff. So the fact that they're gonna get this product probably pretty quick here, either like, you know, probably PDF earlier and then the print
yeah,
after the final order goes in.
yeah. So the book is done. There's a couple of like, um, honestly, I think I'm probably gonna like put the book as soon as the money clears or whatever from Kickstarter. I don't know
It's
how.
usually 1 month later, finally, like
Yeah,
it
whatever, couple
comes through.
weeks.
Yeah.
I might even do it before. I don't know. that's probably not a good idea. This is how my process goes. Like, I'll just figure it out. But yeah, so whenever it's safe to send the PDF out, that'll go out. And then I'm doing like one more proofreading kind of pass just to make sure. And I guess I'm sending it out to people, and I'm assuming like some people will find some things as well. And so there's basically just one round of revisions left, and then it's straight to the printer. So, the production time, I want this to like become a real thing and be in people's hands as fast as possible. It's like June of next year is when I'm estimating that, so that's like, oh my gosh, like more than 6 months. That seems kind of crazy, but that's how it is. That's the logistics of getting all this stuff made. So,
yeah, it can take its toll and take its time. And there's like all these global logistic pinch points and that kind of thing. So, but they'll probably get the PDF earlier than later.
Yeah, as soon as that's as soon as possible. Yeah.
So, JP, thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure to have you on here. I love your work, love your channel. I think you've been doing some incredible stuff and sharing the love of role-playing games. Thank you so much, man. It was really fun. And I guess if you're an indie game designer, JP's been doing this for quite a while, but if you are an indie game designer and you want to come on and talk about your game, go to daikugames.com/game-pitch, and there's a form to fill out there, and tell them Game Pitch Gary sent you.
Hey friends, are you looking for a game that is not Dungeons or Dragons? Well, we got exactly what you need at Daiku Game Pitch. We got zines, we got OSR, we got adventures. But wait, there's more. We got solo games, we got journaling games, we even got card games and dice games. Oh hell, I don't even know what kind of game this is, but we got it. And if you visit us in the next 2 minutes, you're gonna get all the Zine Quest, Zine Months, Itch Fund and Backer Kits, Kickstarters that you can't handle. Visit us at www.daikugames.com and tell them a Game Pitch Gary sent ya.